All right. So if you're trying to tag your events with Segment, and sometimes you just want to do a quick test just to see how a specific event gets to your destination, or just want to see the properties in general. Um, for JavaScript, there's a cool tool, I think, that I built uh, that kind of lets you easily test your integration with no code. No code required. As of now, it supports JavaScript as the main um, uh, as the main tracking, but it also supports Python and Node sources. Um, so this is the page, JNiusTech.com, and it basically um, lets you learn about your implementation, basically, and just kind of analyze it, debug it. Uh, so cool. We'll get started. If you want to learn more, you can come here. There's a few descriptions, but one of the things is I don't really track anything from the segment side, uh, since you're going to be using your implementation. Uh, so to get started, you're going to need a JavaScript source. So if you come to your sources or connections, uh, you just get a JavaScript source, and then you're gonna get this key right here. So your segment key. So then we're gonna start testing, and let me log out. Uh, Great. So we start testing, um, and here is where you're gonna put in this key, uh, and there's an either enabled or disabled that will, for example, if you do disabled, you won't track anything yet. It's disabled. We can check by checking this out. So today's the 26th, and this is from the 24th. Uh, so we can so at this point, it should start tracking like page events normally, but we don't have anything. It's not loading anything. So now we just enable it. It's going to reload real quick. Um, and this is when we start getting our track pages. Uh, and then in here, uh, it's I try to go as simple as possible with the UI. But on top, you can log out. So this will basically delete your segment key from uh, the local storage, and it will reset the session. And then you can just get started again. You put your code in again. There's that little bug that I need to fix. But cool. Uh, so you can log out. Then you have your tracking code. You can update this anytime you need. And then a server side tracking code. Like I said, this as of now supports Python and Node. Working on adding a few more. But yes, you can update these anytime. And actually, I do have a Python source here actually. So same thing. We just grab our right key. We come in here, add it in here, and then we just update. It's gonna refresh. I bet I can do this without refreshing. I don't need to refresh the page on this. But cool. Now you have a few cards. You can track your identify events, you can track your track events, and you can track your pages events. And I'll show you real quick. So right now, usually a user, uh, it's not logged in, so we don't know anything about the user. We don't know their identities. Now let's say a user logs in, and we know a little more. So here you can set a few traits, uh, something like user ID ABC123. Uh, this is a string, so you can add characters uh, and numbers or signs, whatever your user ID may be formatted like. Uh, so you can write that, or you can just randomly generate one, right? Uh, Here you can just regenerate both a new user with a user ID and another anonymous ID. I don't want to do that. So I should probably, the reset locks you out and then your anonymous key changes. So you see it's gone, then it refreshes and it didn't generate one. So I just refresh again. Um, cool. So now we can set our user ID here. Like I said, ABC123, I can set my own. We can set an email, me@me.com, a first name, uh, and then a last name. And then you can save your user. Then after a few seconds, the page reloads and it lists your traits here. Now, obviously, you're not restricted to just those. You can come in the console and do your normal analytics that identify. Which you can add your user ID here. So I'll just grab this and add my own traits, right? So I'm changing my last name, adding a favorite color, favorite food. So if I hit this, it does that. And then you can refresh the page and it'll show you those traits as well. And here, last name, I actually spelled it or formatted it in two different ways. So it'll show them both. So cool, there's that. And now you can reset your user and keep your traits. So you can generate a new one, or you can just remove your traits, right? It'll remove those as well. I'm going to leave it as that for now. Cool, so that's identify, right? Oh, and we forgot to test it. Okay, so we're here, and you can see my little identify calls happened. The first one with just email first and last name, and then the second one with email, favorite color, food, first name, last name, and the new last name. Now, I don't have identifies through server side yet. I will be adding those soon, so look out for that. Cool. I'm gonna do track last, just because I feel like it's gonna take a little longer. Or you know what? Let's just go with it. So for track, you can add your own event name properties. You can set your own, basically your own custom event. There's also predefined paths. So for example, for an e-commerce application, instead of like doing your page and then do a custom event of like product viewed, then identified after sign up. Instead of that, there's a predefined path basically, or funnel for what a user does for a specific category. So like e-commerce, the user views a product, they sign up, an account gets created and check out, right? Something like onboarding someone onto like a specific page, like they create an account, create a personal information, started some documents, and then interview. So there's that as well. So you don't have to do it all on your own. And it works pretty well. So let's try this one for now. So in here, you can choose to send all these events through your server side as well. I think it works on these. And I don't think number of time works for this. So I'm going to disable that when using this. But then you can set your runtime. For example, I have a Python one. So I'm going to keep it as Python. And then you basically click send. Um, and if we look in here, okay, so those paths don't work for this yet, which I'll be working on that. Uh, but yeah, so now this just happened. Uh, cool. So yeah, Python doesn't work for those paths yet. I'll make them work on my next push. Uh, but cool. So then we come to the exciting part, um, the track event. Setting your own. So you can set your own something like interview scheduled for a doctor software appointment. Uh, so here you can start setting your properties. So an interview scheduled, you can do something like date. Now it doesn't support data types yet. It's something on the to-dos. Uh, they're all string as of now. So you can do something like 22:07, 28. And then your time, something like 11 a.m. And I don't know, maybe something like the source, either like a phone call. Actually, no, right? Because we're doing it on a software, so that wouldn't make sense. It's like urgent, basically. We'll do false. Like I said, it doesn't support these yet data types, but it will soon. So maybe we'll do something like 0 as for false. Now this will work. Now let me just copy this because I'm gonna need it. But here is when you can only send it through your JavaScript. So it sends. Python doesn't have anything yet. We come here. We have our interview scheduled. Urgent. No. Oh, date actually seemed to have worked. Interesting. Huh. Okay. I guess it recognizes it. Segment is too smart like that. Great. So let's say after the interview scheduled, you get something on the server side because they went to their app maybe and they don't have tracking enabled. So something like this, they updated it because of some reason, right? So we had date, boom, but they changed the time to something like 12 and urgent. It was urgent. So you can either send on the server side. So now if you hit send, it will send it both on the client and the server side. Or if you just want to send it on the server, you can just send it. So now we have our interview updated here. You can check out the raw stuff, violations if you have a tracking plan. But yeah. And then the other thing is, for example, the same one. Time for 10 a.m. So for client side, there's a way to get the code. So for example, you could copy this. I don't have server side yet. That's coming. But if you were to copy this and just paste it in the console, if you come here, you see your new updated event shows up. So awesome. Now, if for some reason you want to send it a few times, like 3 times, through both, you could do that. So you can see all three here. You can see all three here. Uh, I don't know why you would want to do it, but there have been cases in my own case to do this, or that I had to do this. Now, something I haven't shown, I'll leave a link on the description below, but it's this segment event tracker extension. Everything that we just did gets tracked in here. Obviously, right now it's easy for us to see the events because there's no other users here. But in a real live platform with real customers, it's hard to see data coming if there's too many customers. It's hard to keep up with this because it updates live unless you obviously turn it off here and pause. Uh, but this basically lets you see your own session. Uh, so yeah, all the pages that we've seen, identify calls, pages loaded, account created, all the events, interview updated. You can see the properties. Okay, great. Um, Now, the reason why you would want to test this maybe is to check out your destinations, basically. Right now, I don't have any of these besides this Postgres instance. But yeah, um, the next thing, which is pretty cool, is this page card over here. Here you can auto generate your own like custom page, so like a sign up page. Or I guess I don't mean auto generate it, but you can set a specific path that you may want to go to, and then add like your campaign stuff. For now, we're gonna do quickly just sign up, so you can see your application goes to that path, and if there's any query parameters, it picks them up, and then it tells you about them. And over here, we get their sign up event here, refers to the page before, but the URL here. Now, let's say you're, for example, running a campaign through Facebook or something, that takes them to the login page. So you do your campaign, right? Something like summer sale. Your source would be something like Facebook or social, I think. Your medium, I think PC or social. And then content is not used too much. And then term. So here you can just tag me here. It lists your query parameters. And segment actually recognizes that. So obviously gives you your query parameters. But if we look at the raw and the context, it actually picks up those campaigns. So it's a good way to test if your data is going right, for example, to something like Google Analytics or another marketing campaign like Facebook or Google Ads. And yeah, you can add your own custom parameters. So if we go up here and add these, for example, and example equals true, it lists them in here as well. And they would obviously show up in your segment here, right? So example true, another value, another parameter. You can always come back. Trying to see if I'm missing anything. But I think I got everything for the most part. I guess we can try creating. Oh, I can add another source. I'll delete this, and we're going to add a notice source. It's literally the same thing as Python. So now just copy this. You come up here, add your new code, update this, and just simply change this to node event work, please, or else I don't know. So then we enable our server side, and then we send only server side. Now we come here, come to our debugger, we see our node event. Anonymous ID, user ID since it's logged in. So everything gets tagged to your user. I'm pretty sure I'm doing the same thing with Python. So like interview updated, anonymous ID, user ID. So yeah. And once you're done, you can either update your tracking code if you're trying to update another one, or just simply be done. And that has been a simple walkthrough on how to debug or just kind of simply quickly test something like tracking campaigns. Let's say you're trying to debug Google Ads or Facebook destination. Tracking campaigns would probably be important there. So that could be a thing you can do. Maybe testing a server-side implementation. Now, things that I will be adding to this will be obviously fixing the few little bugs that are present. For example, this not loading. But I'm going to make these a little bit more dynamic. So I'm going to add like a little plus sign so that it's you can add as many of these as you need. I'll probably set a limit to, I think Segment allows 25 or something like that. Traits, same thing, a little dynamic field, which that actually shouldn't be too bad. No, yeah, it would, because I need key value for trait and value. I'm going to add the ability to update the context within the request. So basically, I want to give a little preview of what the actual raw request will look like, and then you can kind of edit the context. Then after that, integrations, a nice little GUI to add integrations, and same thing, update fields for that integration. For example, Google Analytics adding the client ID, Amplitude adding a session ID. So things like that. Things that are down the roadmap. But awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoy it. Any request, leave it in the comments. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.